Hello, yes, we are back. It's been a long time. We've had a summer break. We've been enjoying ourselves doing wonderful things around the house and all kinds of good stuff. But Mark, Lisa, how are you? Welcome. It's lovely to see you both again live.
Thank you.
Very
It's
well.
good to be back.
Yeah. Yes, it's cool. I've decided to come up with a little bit of a new look. I've been told that I was too young and fresh-faced for this this kind of creator content thing. I needed to be a bit more responsible and mature looking. So,
Oh my gosh.
I've gone
I'm
with a
loving
beard
it. I'm grooving on it.
Thank you. Yeah, people seem to like it. I don't know why, but it saves me some time, so I'm happy.
That's all about, and that's what we're all about, efficiency and saving time on this show. And please let us know in the comments what you think about Mark's new look. It's amazing, wonderful. We have a few people joining us. We'll get to the comments in a momento. But today we're going to be talking about understanding content creation and some of the questions you should be asking yourself before you start your content creation journey. Now, all three of us have started our content creation journeys at different times. And I guess we've all been through the same sort of process, asking ourselves, why are we doing this? What are we going to offer people? What value do we have to bring to the party? All those things and doubts that you go through your mind. So today we thought we'd touch on a number of different questions that you can sort of tease and start to ask yourself about to get a bit of a general idea around what type of content you'd like to start pushing out there. And stay around to the end because we do have a little bit of a free giveaway for you to help you with all that. So let's start, shall we? So first of all, I guess one of the first questions I'd like to ask is, why do you want to do this stuff in the first place? I'll give you my reasons in a minute, but maybe if I could start with you, Mark. Why did you start your content creation journey, and what did you think about when you wanted to start creating your stuff?
So I started for two reasons, really. Because my content journey started as an audio podcaster, and it started because I was getting into listening to podcasts. I was sort of excited about the prospect of it, starting to realize that with a little bit of informed content and some online courses that were going on, you could do it relatively easily. There's obviously a learning curve, but compared to what it had been like sort of 4 or 5 years before that, it was something that you could do. And at the same time, because my podcast is about education, my kids were going through school, I was working in schools, doing music and various things, and I was sort of seeing the same sorts of situations. So for my particular situation, it was the fact that I was going into schools doing music workshops, and then I was seeing teachers literally banging their heads against a brick wall saying, I got into this to change lives and, be that kind of moral compass to kind of really do a good thing. And I'm spending most of my time form filling and generally not being particularly productive. And so I was just in a privileged position to be able to be in lots of different places and think that is true. And a lot of the time, however, this particular school is doing this in a certain way, or this organization is providing, workshops in a different state or different county here in the UK. And I thought, well, maybe if one person could hear that conversation with this other person, then maybe that would be a fun thing to do. So it sort of combines my sort of new sort of love for podcasts and listening and that kind of wanting to do something in that space just because it felt like a good thing to do, and also having this sort of opportunity to do it. And one sort of sidebar from that, you talk about, what's the inherent thing that you do. A few years before that, I'd actually produced a World War II concert for a whole load of school kids who were in the choir. I had my professional band come in and we created this World War II concert for parents in the local community. But the reason this is relevant to the content creation part is because actually we did a few sort of local radio segments to kind of help publicize it. And I really loved being behind a microphone. And I kind of thought, right, this is really fun. I really enjoy this. And it was only afterwards I thought, even back then, there was something about it. I thought, actually, there's something about this which makes me feel sort of really excited and really sort of at home. And a few years later, here I am, sort of been able to do it from home and not even thinking that was sort of related. But it's funny how that sort of, there's an inherent feeling or an understanding or something that makes you think, actually, yeah, this is fun and interesting and exciting. And as you say, the rest of it, takes its own course. It started as that sort of passion project and fun, and then turned into something else beyond that. But yeah, that's where it started, and it was those sort of inklings, that sort of will to just want to start something because there was a niggle and an opportunity there, and just decided to do it.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily mean that like where people think, oh, I really got to start something today. From your perspective, it was something that you were passionate about already, and decided, well, why not? Let's just start creating some content and put it out there, and see if that resonates with other people, and hopefully that can help other people as well. What about yourself, Lisa? I know you've had different sort of incarnations with your sort of content creator journey, and you can just pick one of them just as an example for people here. But just tell us a little bit about where you all get started in all this madness.
Yeah, I'll do a really brief condensed version. I fell into it actually because I had a home fragrance and jewelry line. I was a jewelry designer. And so we were doing videos, and then I had a PR person who said, can you do more lifestyle things? Like, do you know how to cook? So I started doing cooking videos. And so it was out of trying to grow my brand from just, the jewelry and the home fragrances into being more of a lifestyle, into doing the cooking videos, is how I ended up becoming a content creator and doing, started doing live shows back when Facebook Live started, which I think was 2016. And that was the Wild West back then.
Yes.
Didn't have the, it was hard. It didn't have the tools that we have now. It would have been so much easier. So that's how I ended up here. And it was just, I think in trying to build and grow what I was doing, it became a necessity, as it is now, if you have any business, to be a creator. Or if you don't want to call yourself a content creator, just put yourself out there and be more visible with your, with your brand, with yourself and all that stuff. So
cool.
Is that condensed enough?
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Yeah, because we've got a lot to get through. And me, very quickly, I started my journey back in 2000 and something, where I wanted to do a retro tech channel with a colleague of mine. It was called Old Gold Tech. It was really fun. Didn't really have much experience in all the production and camera stuff, but I had a sort of a photography background, got into video, and started doing vlogging later on. After that channel sort of was put to one side, started my own channel, and just tried to go through a journey of trying to help. First of all, I tried to work out what I was doing myself in terms of learning all the gear and photography, videography, and how to do lighting and all that kind of stuff. And then decided, after I finished my job with IT, might be a good idea to maybe help other people. So putting a lot of sort of free content out there to try and just push and help other people in a similar situation. And again, it goes back to that thing of trying to sort of deliver some value and turning a passion project, which is something that I always loved and wanted to do, into something a little bit more sort of tangible by just putting yourself out there. And I think these days with YouTube and any platform that you choose, it is your digital resume. It is the place where people are going to have a quick look to see if you actually can do what you say you do, particularly if you are turning this into a business, which is what we'll talk about in a second. One of the questions we should be asking ourselves is, okay, we've got something fun or interesting that people might want to learn about and actually enjoy, but do you want to actually try and turn your hobby or something that you're actually passionate about into a business? Let's just go to a couple of comments real quick, because we've got a few people joining us. Mr. Marcus, it's been a long time. Yes, Amplifiers, we're back. Hi, Marcus. Thank you so much for joining us. Where have you been recently? Tell us what you've been up to. We haven't seen your videos online, but obviously you've been very busy with other things, no doubt. But let us know what you've been up to. Saeed says that Mark is going for the Helix H style. I think that's Alex Hormozi. So, okay. I can see that. You need a little bit more time, but I think you'll get there, personally. But there you go. Marcus thinks you look like a rebel, which I'm confident in. I think you do. Yeah, you're just mixing it up. And a big congratulations to Saeed, who's just at 600 subs on YouTube today and still asking himself, who are these weirdos and what's wrong with them? And why did this overlay go all the way over there? That's because you've got amateurs doing the work. Let me just do that real quick.
I love you showing how to do it on the fly.
There you go.
Things happen.
That's
when you're live.
Yeah, live happens, right?
Live happens.
So I guess the next thing we want to talk about is when should you, or what considerations should you make when you want to maybe make a business out of this madness? We've talked about hobbies and passion projects, and there's never a better time to actually start a business yourself. So maybe what are the things that we should consider when we are thinking about, is this going to be a hobby, or when does a hobby become a business? Because I think many people do this for the wrong reasons. They go into it and say, I've got an idea, I'm going to make some money out of it, and maybe go down that route. And I think you've got to have a little bit of a thought process behind that. And we're all looking to do certain things on YouTube, and all of us are doing, as a collective, we're looking at, a business proposition with the things that we're offering our viewers, and we all do our own different things in terms of consultancy and projects and things. So maybe, Lisa, if I can turn to you first, is there any sort of advice you would give when you're talking to your clients, when they're thinking about, well, I really want to get online and maybe I want to make some money out of this? Is there anything you would say to them first off, or some considerations you may have for them?
I think the biggest consideration is, do you have the time, the energy, and the mental capacity to do this? Because it's not easy, be real. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work. You become an octopus. You're doing a lot of different things at once. So really, do you have the time to do it? And can you make time for the commitment to do it? And if you can say yes to that, then the next thing is, why do you want to do this? Who do you want to serve? What's your long goal for this? And it could be just to get, you're not trying to rule the world, as I like to say. You're just trying to help people and get to a certain point. Maybe you're not trying to get that, what is it, the gold or silver, YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is that
award or whatever.
If that's your ultimate goal.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing is like, you don't have to have a lot of people, who are your true fans. We all know that, what is it, 1,000 true fans, the piece that was written. You don't have to have a lot of people to have a viable business. You can just have your true followers and serve them and not worry about trying to serve everybody or go viral and all that, because doesn't mean you're going to make money just because you go viral.
No, it doesn't. So, and that's an interesting point, actually, because you see a lot of channels and people posting on YouTube about, well, I made X amount of money from this video. And then when you actually start to dig into it, it's the numbers don't really add up. You could have an outlier that does make you quite a bit of money, but then the rest of the time they're just sort of floating along, ticking away with, just an average type of revenue that they're getting. So it's not necessarily a viral video is going to make you a millionaire. I think those days have gone, and I think it's important really to build a community now.
I agree with you. And to that point, a lot of those people who are making a lot of money have these teams. So when you do the numbers, when you really sit down and do the numbers of what is the cost to have that team for you to put out all of that content, how much money are you really making at the end of the day?
Yes.
Are you covering your costs? Are you a little bit under? Or are you a little bit over? So, you don't have to have a team.
No.
That's the other thing to do this. So.
No, and that is an interesting point. A lot of people, you think, oh, they're everywhere. They've got a lot of content out there. The content is highly polished. They seem to be on every single platform. And there's a couple of sort of discussions going on at the moment on the interwebs about, well, you don't need to be everywhere on social media. Just stick to one particular platform and be on YouTube. And as we've seen recently with all the changes in the monetization strategy that YouTube has, the collaboration and things like that, probably a topic for another show at some point, how they're actually really going all in and really cannibalizing some of the other social media platforms and saying, come on to YouTube. This is where it all started. We can make you money and we can help you actually, be a successful creator. So Mark, in your experience, obviously you've developed a podcast, you've got a big following, you've got a number of different episodes. From your perspective, when does a hobby or a passion project become something a little bit more, and when should people start considering making money from it?
Well, I think you need to take a step back first and see where you are within your own life. So when I started, I was already self-employed. I've been self-employed my whole career. So I've got a performing element. I've got an educational element. So the podcasting came along and sort of became one of those things. So it was easy for me, easy in inverted commas, but in as much as it just became another area that I could sort of dive into. I was lucky enough that I got an organization that wanted to sponsor the show, and they did it over a year's contract each time, which meant I had the knowledge that I could put a certain amount of time, a certain amount of days into it and actually grow it from there, which was really, really good. Whereas if I'd actually had a 9 to 5, that would have been a very different thing. You know, would it, like Lisa said, would I have had the time to commit to it? Would I have been able to sort of fit it around? Would I actually want it to stay a hobby? Because then it takes the pressure off. As soon as there's sort of any money involved, there is a commitment and there's an obligation to what it is that other people are kind of paying you for. So I think it depends on your sort of individual setup to begin with, and then how you go about it. And also, if you've got a time scale, because I guess that's the other thing. If you can organically just move, then you can then pick and choose when you sort of take that next step. If you're kind of like, I'm going to be 3 months, and if it hasn't worked in 3 months, I'm going to give up, then you're putting an awful lot of pressure on certain things that are probably out of your control. And as we know, the overnight successes, which are really sort of 10 years in the making, are kind of quite a common story. So I think, yeah, those things are really key. How much time? Do you have a day job? Do you want to get rid of your day job if you're going to take your content creation, you know, sort of more full time, or can you sort of go part time and do both? So it's where that sort of fine line is, and where you start to smudge those sorts of things, which they're a difficult decision, and it also depends on where you are in your life. You know, if you're in your early 20s and you're single and you've got limited responsibility, that might be different than if you're in your slightly mature years with the family and a mortgage and various other commitments as well.
I think you both made some excellent points there, and things people should consider is, you know, as Lisa mentioned, how much time are you willing to put into this? Because we all know from experience that YouTube is very hard. And as you said, Mark, these overnight successes, they're 10 years in the making, 5 years in the making. You know, if you look at a lot of people's backstories, they've put out hundreds and hundreds of videos, good and bad, removed some from their channels, and it's taken them a long time to become established as an authority in that particular area that they're interested in. And some people just basically, you know, create videos, they push them out there, and they don't really have an upload schedule. And, you know, there's a lot of discussion around that as well. You don't really need to keep to a really regimented upload schedules, particularly if you've got a life outside of that, if you're doing a full-time work as well. I know from experience, trying to fit in doing and creating videos alongside a full-time job and other responsibilities and things like that, you just get to the end of the day and you go, oh, I've got to make a video now. I don't want to do that. I'm tired. And then you almost your hobby, your passion project then becomes another job. And once it becomes that, it starts to grate and you start to resent it. So you have to set those boundaries, as Lisa quite rightly mentioned. Work out how much time you want to commit to this and stick to it. Just stick to a commitment. If it's one video every month and it's going to be, you know, maybe 15 minutes long and it's going to be on the subjects that I want, fine. Just keep pushing it out there, because straight away, as soon as you start pushing content on YouTube, nobody's going to watch it. It's going to take a long time for that to get up and running. Unless, of course, you're one of these video channels that basically have about 5 or 6 videos and they've got like 2 million subscribers already. And maybe you've just hit on a particular piece of content that resonates with so many people, YouTube has decided to take those videos and start to show them and push them out to others. Because, you know, there's a lot of talk about how the YouTube algorithm works. Nobody really knows for sure. There's a few pointers and a few things that people can guesstimate on how it works. But at the end of the day, you've just got to be pushing out content that resonates with people, that's providing some value, or you just push it out there and say, yeah, I'm just going to see how this runs and not worry about it.
Yeah, I would add to that, depending on what the cadence is you want to do, if it's once a month, biweekly, whatever, kind of market it that way. So people, you know, who are liking your content and following you can be like, oh, you know, Mark's doing this bi-weekly show. Like we used to do a bi-weekly show, and now we're doing a weekly. Or once a month, you're putting out something that's so, you know, has so much to offer that people look forward to it. So I would say don't just push it out there and forget it. Give it a little bit of legs, give it a little bit of push in how you market it. And that, you know, that's just a little bit of extra time, just so you can start to keep the people who are watching you and then find the new eyeballs that want to follow. So.
Perfect.
And also, there is also this idea that you can actually just use it as an extension of what you're doing. So I've got some musician people that I know who are already composing pieces. They were doing stuff in education, and then they started just putting stuff on YouTube in a certain format, and then whoosh, away it went. So it's just an extension of what they were doing already. It wasn't a kind of a shift. It wasn't just a hobby, but there was sort of a natural kind of enjoyment of wanting to do something in a different way. And if it hadn't taken off or it hadn't been that, then they'd still be doing what they were doing, and you haven't lost anything. But actually then it just opens up a whole load of opportunities to sort of share that in a different way, and life looks very different then. But like I say, you're never quite sure what that's going to be, and each person's different.
Yeah.
That's the reason. Just film everything. Just have a camera running.
All the
seriously.
time. All the time.
Not all the time, but I mean, like if
Yeah.
you are performing and you just set it up so people can hear you and see you, it doesn't have to be fancy. Then if you can use that, why not? Why not use it to expand upon what you're doing? So.
Yeah, and there's no excuse, right? Cameras are available. You got your phone. Just start recording stuff, because you might capture some moments that are just dear to you as well and want to share with your family, or you can push them out there and so on. So yeah, no, that's great tips. We've got a couple of comments, so I'm just going to flip over to the comments and hopefully they'll work this time. So Saeed basically says, the channels making money on YouTube are usually the ones about making money on YouTube. And that's true. You know, you do see a lot of those content channels all pushing how to make your millions on YouTube. And Saeed said, don't get me started on AI. When I see videos explaining how to create 20 no-value videos today. Now that's again, a topic for another show entirely, but there is obviously a lot of what they class as AI slop, right? Where we're going to be flooded in the next, well, we're already flooded, but we're going to be more flooded with more content that's faceless, that's maybe doesn't have that meaning. And if you look at the type of content that's really resonating with people, that human connection, the documentary style, the investigative journalism, the real stories that are coming out, they're real by real people, and that's going to resonate with your audience. And I think that's important to keep that in mind as well. AI has its place, don't get me wrong, and I think it's a great tool for use in various different aspects of the content creation life cycle, but it shouldn't be your primary focus just to churn out AI slop. That's just my feeling. Maybe
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree.
I think that's a fairly narrow fence you're sat on there.
Is it a narrow fence? Yeah, yes, absolutely. So let's talk about the eyes of the audience. Like, who, when you're making content and when you're starting a business, let's look at YouTube or what we're doing now as a business. If you want to be able to work with people, sell to people, it's important to have an ideal customer or ideal client persona in mind, somebody that fits the criteria that you want to work with. So I'll go to Lisa first, and I'll tell you my thoughts in a second. So Lisa, in terms of when you're working with your clients, prior to sort of setting up your sort of business and starting to work with clients in your content creation journey and what you do now and helping people, how did you determine who you wanted to work with? Maybe this is easier for some people than others, because sometimes you may have something in mind that resonates with you and who you want to help. But maybe talk us through a little bit about sort of how you got to that ideal client list and how we can help other people get to theirs.
Yeah, I'm going to do two parts. One is discovering who that person is, your ideal client. I just asked a lot of people who seem interested in doing what I was about to teach and interviewed them. And then I took the compilation of all of that and created my ideal client, because you're going to learn from each one of those interviews or just coffee conversations or whatever. So that helped me find who I had in my mind who I thought I wanted to help. But then when you're interviewing people, other things are going to come out that you didn't even think of, that they're looking for or need. So once I created that person, Sandra, we'll call her. Once I created Sandra, she's not AI. I guess she could be. I could make an AI. There you go.
You could. There you go.
I could. Ideal client, and then feed.
I'm just going to write that down.
Thinking of doing through it. There you go.
Sandra.
New tip.
Yeah.
But after I did that, then as I was deciding who I wanted to work with, and not trying to sound woo, but our energy had to match. And when I say that, again, not trying to sound woo-woo, but our energy needed to match. I need to know that they wanted to do this, that they wanted to, commit. I have a thing that I give people to fill out that really, like, a lot of people don't like me for this, because it's asking a lot of questions and they're hard questions that maybe they hadn't asked themselves. And it's a Google form. And the way it's set up is you have to answer the question. You can't just skip. And so I've had people, we've had the pre-interview, I've given them the document. Not that they ghosted me, but they had to go away for a bit to figure out, do I really want to do this? And that's what I like about the forum, because I've had a few people say, I thought I wanted to do this. I thought I wanted to do this video podcast. I thought I wanted to, and I went through the questions and I realized this isn't for me. So I think if you do, your pre-interview and then you give them this form so they can do a little deep dive, because I don't know what's in their head, and they can decide for themselves, is this what I really want to try to pursue, even if it's part-time or, just to try it. I think that helps everybody. And then we have a great working relationship. I have to say, the people I work with, they went through all that, and, they're hardworking, they're building their presence online, and it's good for everybody. And I know where their head's at, and they know where their head's at. And I think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, that it is really important. And I think one of the things, and I'll come to you in a second, Mark, one of the things that I try and work on is, well, where is this person in the journey? Like you, do they, first of all, need some help in identifying, well, is this for me? Do I actually want to create any content? And those are the types of people that you can certainly and definitely help out from that sort of initial idea to then either going live or producing content online or whatever they're doing. And for me, I'm trying to work out as well, where are these people in their journey? So I have clients that have already been creating lots and lots of videos, but now they might want to start doing live sessions where they'll need maybe some remote production. They've never been live before. It's a completely different sort of game for them. They've only done sort of pre-recorded content, pushed it out on YouTube, got a following that way, and so on. How I sort of came to my ideal client persona is because I created quite a few videos to start with on topics that I was interested in, because I just wanted to help people and really just push out maybe looking at it this way and maybe trying to teach them in a different sort of manner. The questions and feedback that I got on my channel and the content that I created actually helped me understand a little bit more about what the potential clients were looking for. So that helped me understand a little bit more about their ages, where they are in their journey. Are they brand new people who have no idea at all and that need, just basic help from the first sort of piece of gear to select and things like that. So I offer a 30-minute discovery call, and there's no pre-qualification questions in that, and I'll talk about why that's to my detriment in a minute. But what I do ask is a question about sort of, what do you want to discuss in there? And it's almost like a pre-sales call, right? When you're going into a pre-sales call and trying to qualify and understand that person, you're not really sure about what they're going to ask you, especially if they don't put anything in there. And what I found is a lot of people are just asking lots and lots of basic questions and trying to get as much information from you in that first 30 minutes. Or they book a number of different sessions over time and then they don't show up. So I'm changing the way that I'm going to be working. But the point of this is really, how are we working to identify who our ideal client is? And I think, and we'll come on to in a second once we've heard from Mark, we also have to agree as individuals when we are trying to work with people, who do we not want to have on our books? Who do we not want to work with? Because it's just as important to, as a colleague that I work with, my anti-ICP, and that's not a relative, it's somebody you don't want to work with, versus, the real ideal client themselves. So Mark, I mean, you obviously work with different people in your podcast audio workshops and things like that. Do you have a choice in that sometimes, or do you decide these people might not fit what I want to do? And as people come to you and said, this is what I'm looking for, and you think, well, maybe doesn't resonate with sort of either my values or something that I don't really want to support you in.
Well, I'm sort of in that sort of weird position that my podcast itself is so sort of wide reaching. They're not clients in the sense. Essentially, I'm trying to support anyone that's got a child, whether you're a teacher or a parent. So you're invested in it from that point of view. But what I'm not able to do is I don't have the silver bullet which actually answers your questions to anything tomorrow necessarily. A lot of the interviews that I do give you good advice. They're things you can take on and they do make a difference. But it's more that kind of the idea of having a movement in a community that's kind of bit by bit edging in a more productive manner. The sort of the client work I sort of do through a different organization. So they book me based on my knowledge and my expertise from a podcasting point of view. And they come to me and say, look, we've got these people, they want to learn about podcasting. This is their background, which is very, very different. I've had all sorts of different topics and reasons for it. But I can then use my skills to help train them. But I guess I could say yes or no, but essentially I'm sort of a hired hand from that point of view, and they do a lot of the marketing legwork and all of that, and I just actually able to come and share my expertise and make that work from there. So I'm in a sort of slightly different position from that point of view, which is why I'm finding this journey with both of you so interesting, because obviously we're in a position to actually collectively offer these things and sort of learn. Me and myself learning from both of you in terms of how that works, because you are working directly with clients all the time. My clients essentially from a musical point of view are either people I'm working for and being a performer, or within a school situation and they're kids that I'm actually teaching, and so they're often given to me and I can market and pull them, but this is a slightly different world than the sort of thing that we're talking about.
Sure. And I know you work sort of through somebody. Do you know, and you don't have to say, do they have like a pre-qualification set of questions as well? So before they come to you, before it actually comes to you from a delivery perspective, do they push out a questionnaire or something to those potential clients? So at least you've got some idea about where these people are in terms of what they want to do, and they're not just coming in completely cold. It's like, well, I was looking for a cookery class and now you're giving me podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
so yeah, the course itself is basically a 1 day, can be more than 1 day, but a 1 day beginner's guide to actually setting up a podcast. But the people that are coming in, some of the people are people who have an individual passion that they want to create into a podcast. It's something they've been talking about. Sometimes they've got like a newsletter community that they want to then suddenly have a podcast related thing for. Sometimes it's actually a company that just want to have podcasting as part of their outlet now, and they want to have these conversations as well. So it can be a large organization or it can be an individual. But that sort of information they do let you know in advance, and that then obviously tailors what I then do as part of the workshop, because the things I might focus on are going to be slightly different depending on what their outlook is, and they might know everything they're going to say on a podcast because it's already been generated through what the company wants. And some people come in and just say, this is what I'm really interested in, I've no idea about anything, so let's talk about that. So yeah, it's not a massive form, but it's enough just for me to be able to then use my expertise to say, right, let's.
Oh, we had a bit of a glitch there. I think we still have a glitch. Just 1 second. Are we still alive? Are we still working here?
Are we back?
Yeah, that was a bit weird. I lost both of you. So that's probably on my side. So thank you, Starlink, for breaking. I think we're still a little bit glitchy. Are we still live? I guess we are. We're still going. Okay. Sorry about that. See, this is what happens with live. We got the majority of that, Mark, so thank you. I think you did break up towards the end there, but let us know in the comments if we're still actually live. I'm sure we are. Even I'm looking out of sync now. Ooh, maybe it's time for a mic upgrade. Who knows?
It's speeding up and slow. It's
very weird. I'll check on that in a second, but let's keep on trucking. I think it's really important to have an ideal client persona in mind, though, because I think when you start to look at things from a business perspective, it's very easy to say, well, I do video production. Everybody's going to be interested in that, as one example. And I think that's difficult, because if you can't hone in on who your ideal client is, it might be difficult to serve them specifically around what they're looking for. So take some time and work out who your ideal client persona is. It might be people that you've already worked with and that resonates with you, as Lisa said, if you've got a vibe from them, or if something works well as a team, because you've got to enjoy the people that you work with at the end of the day. It's not like being in a full-time job where you're actually in an organization and you don't get a choice to who you work with. At least when you're an entrepreneur and you've got your own business, then you can make those decisions on who you want to work with, and more importantly, who you don't want to work with. Let's talk real quick about the anti-ICP then. Lisa, if I can come to you real quick, is there any sort of, you don't have to tell me your criteria, but I used Claude to run through, I gave it what my ideal client persona is based on my research and things, and gave it some things around what I don't want to do in terms of what I don't want to work on and thing. And it actually spat out quite a long and interesting list of red flags, which I'd never considered. So he gave me all these red flags, like when you're having this discovery call or having this initial conversation, these are the things you should look out for, because those are the people you potentially don't want to work with. And there was quite a few lists. I will share it with you at some point, not for the show tonight, but it was
I'm so curious.
Oh, it's hilarious. I will send it over to you. It's
I'm
very
so
interesting.
curious.
But anything that
As
you
long as it's
sort of
not-
go ahead.
People who live in the UK in their sort of 50s, or someone who lives in America. And,
That's
you know,
right.
that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, anybody related
Someone
to the
who's just
Creative
got a beard.
Amplifiers team, don't work. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Don't work with them.
Don't work with us. So Lisa, over to you.
I would say that people who are looking at I call it the disco ball. There's too many shiny objects that they're trying to do at once. And they're just hell bent on, I'm doing this, we're doing it. And that leads into the second part of being flexible and being open to new ideas. And I let people come to what they want to do. I make sure if I have an idea of what their big vision could be, I don't tell them everything, because then that'll feed into that possibly. But I would say, not a person who doesn't want to be flexible and be open to trying something different. Or if something's not working, it's okay to try a different way till you get it to where you want it to be, or you need to abandon it, and that's okay too. So flexibility and too many ideas, too many thoughts about what they want to do.
Yeah, that's a classic one. Somebody who's got like all these crazy ideas and you can't focus on one thing. And we know from experience in this industry and just content creation itself, if you do spread yourself too thin and you are trying to tackle too many points, you're just not going to achieve anything. It's hard enough trying to maintain an upload schedule with maybe one or two topics in mind, but if you've got all these wild and crazy ideas, it's just not going to fly. And I'm with you 100%. I could not work with anybody who's a little bit too disorganized, because it just hurts us both on both sides. Mark, is there any?
That's disorganization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's my password? I don't know where my Google password is.
If it isn't efficient, I don't know how we're still working with Lisa, but she prides herself on being efficient and organized. So hats off to us, Mark. We're doing something right. Mark, anything from you then related to people you particularly don't want to work with? And obviously you've worked with all kinds of different people over the years, performers and so on. Maybe some of the most difficult people in the world to work with. I don't know, but maybe you can share a couple of secrets.
Well, just going on what you said about the flexibility thing first, I think that's a key thing, because there are so many unknowns and things move so fast. So from a content creating point of view, the things that I did when I started back in 2016 are completely different than what I do now, even though I'm still producing a podcast. So I think you need to be flexible. You need to get excited about new things while also just sort of understanding what works for you in the here and now. So if you're definitely rigid, then you're definitely going to be in trouble with that. And if I want to relate that to my music point of view, sort of career from a standpoint, is the fact that, it's great if you've got a group of people, or let's say it's an orchestra in a beautiful concert hall and you've got as much room as you like and everything's working seamlessly. But then you suddenly you take this production on tour and you're in a Victorian theatre where, the ceilings aren't maybe quite as high as you'd like them to be, and you're all crammed in. And at that point, you either with a group of people who go, right, how can we make this work to the best of our ability? And of course, there are certain guidelines and safety things that you have to be part of. And you want to work with those people who are like, yeah, we can make this work. Why don't we try this? Or actually, we could do it slightly differently, but I think this will be brilliant. Or those people that will just basically sort of down tools and say, no, I can't do this. There's no way this is going to work. It's not like it was yesterday when it was a completely different situation. And so I think, you like you said, you get a sense of those people that will understand that given the time and the opportunities, that you can kind of meld what you need for any given situation on any given day. And it's great if you can control a lot of the parameters, but there's sometimes that's not the case. So therefore, can you do it differently? Will you do it differently? Are you happy to do it differently no matter what the results might be for the greater good of what it is that you're trying to do. And of course, that's different if you're doing it for yourself or if you're doing it for somebody else. But I think it's a good understanding of people to be able to see that in practice, certainly before you get too far down the line and maybe it causes an issue in a different place.
Absolutely. So a question to the people in the chat. So obviously, if you are running your own business or you're working with clients, how do you guys choose the clients that you work with, and do you have any specific criteria that's a big sort of red flag or a no-no? Because we're interested to understand. Everybody's got their own sort of ideal client persona in mind that they want to work with, and I think during the beginning of the show, Lisa, you just mentioned one thing about not maybe narrowing it down to one specific ideal client specifically. Could you maybe just talk a little bit about that? Because I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, because I think you do have your main person, but there's always that secondary, and it's like hovering right underneath whoever that main person is, that you need to pay attention to, because not only will they spark new ideas of things that you could be producing for content, you might help your actual main client or main audience person you're trying to get to. So I think it's just being aware of their needs too, and it overlaps a lot of times. Down the line or initially. So yeah, just pay attention to that secondary group. For me, if I use an example, I cater to people 50 plus in what I do, specifically women. But I get people who are younger than that. I get men, so I don't ignore them, but it's not, my main content isn't pushed towards them. But it's interesting to see. So pay attention to your analytics of wherever you're at, and look at who's watching and where they're coming from and all that stuff. So
yeah, I think it's important not to be so sort of myopic and
rigid,
then you just say, well, I'm not going to work with you because you don't fit into my ideal. I mean, you've got to have an open mind and see if, again, that person, no matter if they don't fit into that ideal client persona, if they resonate with you, if it's something that you're interested in, then why not? I think every opportunity is a potential opportunity. Just if there's certain red flags, though, then it's time not to have this conversation. Let's just go quickly back to the comments. Okay, so Mark just got cut off a little bit. Sharing your industry secrets. Well, that's for another show then. You'll have to come back and discover all those secrets that Mark was talking about. Shiny object, Marcus says, which I guess is about, look over here. This is what I want to play with.
The disco ball.
The disco ball. We're not doing that. And so Saeed says he does discovery calls, but it's not about whether I want to work with them, but about sort of making sure I'm the right choice for them as well. Yeah, I mean, it works both ways, right? The discovery call is a two-way thing, because they may not like you, it might not resonate with them, it might not be what they're looking for. So it does help. But one thing I did mention, which is true, and that sort of resonates with me, is that discovery calls are not free consultancy, and they're not. They shouldn't be sort of classified as free consultancy, and I think that's my little bugbear. Sometimes you're dedicating some time to help somebody, and they just see it as sort of a free consultancy. But unfortunately, that's what you're going to get. And Marcus says 50 plus. He finally qualifies, of course. The big 5-0. Congratulations, Marcus. There you go. It's all uphill from now, Marcus. That's what I'm going to tell you.
It's all good.
It's all good. See?
It's fun.
We can all say it's fun. We can all say that. And we say that through gritted teeth and Zimmer frames. We can all say that. Anyway, so moving on. Positioning.
It's real teeth.
It's real teeth. Yeah. Through gritted real teeth. Classic. Oh, that's the quote. That's the quote of the show so far. So, wow, we're already 45 minutes in. So we've got a couple of more topics to discuss. One of them was positioning. So in this ever-growing cutthroat industry that is YouTube, people do often say, well, how am I going to stand out? What makes me different? So there's lots of different takes on that. There's lots of people say, you be your authentic self and do this. I think it's all about what you have to offer, and there can be 5 or 6 topics around exactly the same thing, but it's how you approach it, how you deliver it, and how you resonate with your audience, because not everybody likes everybody. If they did, there'd be one person on YouTube and we'd all be watching them. So there's enough people out there, I think, to go around. And I do get this question like, well, everybody's my competition. How am I going to stand out? Well, you have your own unique spin on something, right? Do you get this a lot, Lisa, when you're talking to clients saying, look, I've got this great topic, but it's similar to this person who's got 2 million subscribers. How am I ever going to compete with that person?
I get this all the time. And this is going to jump back to storytelling. Your story, your experience is completely different from anybody else's. So even if you guys are talking about the same exact points, the same exact topics, it's coming through the lens of you. And this isn't about being authentic. Let me be very clear. It's coming through the lens of you and your experience and how you tell your story. And that's what's going to resonate with people. That's what people are going to connect to. They might see themselves in the story, or it might, get them excited about, well, I didn't have that experience, but it's kind of similar. And I like how Neil does this and how Mark does that. I can get on board and work with them. So it doesn't matter. Nothing's new. Come on, what's new out there? Seriously.
Yeah, not even the new iPhone's new. There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, well, not even the new iPhone is new. So, forget about that. Who are you and what do you have to bring to the table? What's your experience? Tell your story. It's all about that.
Yeah.
So
I can give you a quick example about a client that I worked with a few months ago. They said, I was looking for a particular topic. I can't remember what the topic was now. It was something related to something that I do, obviously, either eCam or video production. They said, I went through 10 or 11 different videos on this topic to try and find an answer. And I came across your channel and I decided to have a call with you because you told your particular point of view in a way that resonated with me. It was understandable, and therefore I chose you out of that. So when I said before about YouTube is your digital resume, if you are putting out there the types of content that is going to resonate with people, or if they're looking for a particular answer to a question, because that's what people do on YouTube, right? I need an answer to X. I'm going to go and search, put it in the search bar, and then a load of videos are going to come up. Now, the people will take the time and maybe go through 2 or 3 of those. Some people choose criteria. Well, how many views has that had? How many subscribers has that person had? They must be great. But I don't have a huge channel, and they chose me over other videos that are out there that had more views and more subscribers. So don't get hung up too much about having a perspective that's similar to everybody else's. Just by being yourself, telling your story, as Lisa said, and just being you can resonate with a bunch of people, and that led to a client who is now a paid client. So it's really sort of straightforward, but you've got to be out there and in the right platform and being able to tell the story accurately and just, be yourself. I mean, Mark, from your perspective, you went into the world of podcasting, and as we know, there are, I don't know how many millions of podcasts out there. So what sort of made you think, sort of stand out, and how did that resonate with your audience? Because you are inundated with people wanting to come on your show. Like, you have a backlog of guests. Some people find it hard to get 1 or 2 guests on the show, but you have a backlog. What do you think how did you position yourself, and how did that resonate, you think, with your audience specifically?
To be honest, back when I started, I think there was not that much thought about who I was trying to talk to on that particular thing. I think I came across because I'm slightly, the thing I thought was my problem became my superpower, because I'm sort of one step, I'm an educator, as in I teach music. I'm not a music teacher in school every day. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in education. I'm vice chair of the National Association for Primary Education. I know about education, but I'm not a classroom teacher. And so my perspectives come as a parent. They come as someone who works in schools, but as slightly, I'm a visiting music teacher rather than a full-time member of staff. And so when I'm talking about these things, it's slightly different. And I think people relate because it's parents that are listening, and it's people that have created a company around education that can support things, and teachers sort of understand what I do as well. So there's lots of sort of different elements to it, but I'm not a grade 2 maths teacher talking about one particular subject. And if I was that person, I always thought that would be much easier, because it would be very obvious for people to relate to me, because I'm a little bit more kind of overview. But actually, no, that became my thing, because the things we talk about are things which are about creativity, about inspiring people to do things differently within the system that's currently in education, but also how that might change as well. So yeah, I think it's just that my personality and my particular sort of center of who I am and how I relate to education is going to be different than those traditional people, and that sort of gave me that outlook, because the people that want to come on the show are people who are not necessarily just teachers. They're sort of looking outside the box and trying to do things in a different way as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that I didn't realize you were chairman of that board as well, and certain things, and this is your expertise, right? This is your authority, and you're presenting yourself in that way, and you've got a lot of valuable content to impart on your audience, and obviously bringing those extra guests in, as we've had guests on our show, just really gives your audience a different perspective from other people as well. Yes, so you see, you can do it too. That's the main thing. Let's talk a little bit real quick about testing and delivery. And what I mean by that is sort of what formats, type of content should you consider doing? I mean, there's so much now. I don't know whether you've heard this sidebar. I don't know if you've heard about this new thing that's, well, I say new to the US, but in China, over the last couple of years, they're starting to do this microdramas. Have you heard all about this?
I just spoke with somebody about that. He's doing.
I saw it. I don't know whether you've heard about this as well, Mark. So the idea behind this is that they're taking this short form vertical content. Think of old soap operas back in the day, that you used to see on Hallmark TV and things like that. And instead of having a 1 hour long piece of content, they've split it up into maybe 60 or 90 1-minute little segments, which are all shot in vertical format. And they call these microdramas. And it started off in China as an idea. And it's about getting, directors and storytellers and all the people that you would have in feature films condensed into this very small team and keeping it sort of on this vertical space. It's made $7.2 billion industry in the last 2 years in China. And now tons of people in the US are getting on board. So again, it's not a new idea in terms of what they're actually creating, but the content delivery, the platform that they're choosing is almost like a TikTok drama is what they're spinning it as. So you heard about it. I was going to send you a link and say, go ahead.
It's behind a paywall. Actually, one of my daughter's friends writes for one of the companies that does it, and she's doing really, really well. But there's a conference coming up pretty soon over in Europe with this. And what it does, it people get hooked on what's these cliffhangers.
It's the cliffhanger. That's the story arc. It's the cliffhanger. Yeah,
it's a story arc and the cliffhanger, and it's behind a paywall. And so, I've watched a few of the free ones, and the acting may not be great,
doesn't have to be.
You're kind of like, what's going to happen next? So it's an interesting model.
It really
I'll be
is.
curious if the streaming services or I can't even say the networks because that's a sad thing here in LA. But anyway, if the streaming services start to tap into that, or who's going to, tap into that, because it's here.
Yeah.
And live shopping.
Well, there you go. You mix them
too.
both. And the model's great, right, about those microdramas, because they give you like one, I think it's either between 1 and 3 episodes free,
free
to
and
get
then
you hooked.
on.
And then it's like, and people have spent like a ton of money, and it's a great model. They, Marcus was pointing out, do I watch Colin and Samir? Yeah, that's where I actually saw that on their YouTube channel. They were interviewing a director, and they asked him the question, because he came from films and documentaries and things. And as we know, with the industry at the moment as it is, there's a lot of people out of work and stuff. So this is a real way of sort of re-energizing that. And he said, is there any money in it really? And he's like, oh yeah, man, So, I mean, it's a very lucrative industry. Yeah. And again, it's that sort of bubble where they're finding something to just really push now.
Yeah. And I'm excited for it's going to allow the smaller creator to create their own little, I keep talking about the media company, but their own studio. Yeah. And if you get the right story and the right story arcs and get people involved, you can shoot it on the cheap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't need a lot. And then you just push it. So now Patreon model or whatever, they're getting the money behind the paywall. Go for it. I'm excited for people.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
And you can take your own sort of content that you're doing and put it behind a paywall. You can make sort of exclusive content available for your subscribers. There's such a number of different ways of monetizing now your particular content. But I just thought I'd share that, and whether you'd heard about it, and you both have, obviously. Mark, any takes from you?
Yeah.
Love soap operas, right?
Yeah, I love a soap opera. I was just wondering whether this type of model is something that content creators could take forward as well. We're here for an hour, do long form conversation, which I absolutely love. But if we took away the bite-sized, really important parts of this, and actually created it into like minute chunks, like I say, you have 3 really good points, and people know that the next 10 are going to take you on that journey, give you that story, give you the conversations and the things that you want in that short form. We can take that out and do it. Then maybe there's something there as well, because it's a different story, it's a different way of presenting it. It's short enough that people can get the information they want, but they're also entering into your world, which is what we're often talking about. World, that's something I just can't say. That word is just really weird in my accent. But anyway, that's another story.
We'd never noticed that, but now we're gonna listen for that all the time.
Till now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Didn't bother me.
It's a West Country thing.
So we've pretty much gone through what we wanted to talk about, but we wanted to leave you with a couple of things. So first of all, one of the questions that we want you to ask yourself as you take away from the show today is your positioning statement. And it's a good exercise to go through, actually, and you should be thinking around sort of who are you helping with what particular topic, so they can what? So transform into be a better videographer, transform into be a better yoga instructor, or whatever it might be. So think about this as your positioning statement, and do a little bit of homework and think about sort of how can I help my audience? What value am I bringing to my audience, and how do I resonate with them, and what problem am I actually solving for my audience? Because if you sort of nail these topics, then you will be very successful in providing that value back to your customers. So any sort of closing thoughts before we tell people where to find us and what we're going to give them today?
I've got a question that someone asked me recently, and it's sort of on that positioning and how you come across, as well as your we've talked about being sort of your personal brand, as it were, and they've basically tried both areas. She was asking me, do I come across as me, my name at kind of thing? It's because she's an artist, and so it's related to sort of pictures and obviously Instagram and that kind of thing. But at the moment she's doing it under a handle, which is kind of it's like a company name sort of thing. But it kind of invokes the sort of art that she's involved in, and she quite like it to be a community-based thing. So she likes the fact that it's not just her name on it if it sort of grows in that kind of way. But she didn't know which way to go. So we sort of chatted about both sides of that coin. But I just wonder what both of you thought about, starting off with it being you as your brand, so people know who you are, versus actually doing it under an umbrella. And so Neil, you've got your channel under your name. Lisa, you've got it under a name. So I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on those things.
Ladies first. I've got my ideas about that, but what makes you, because you are an Appetizing Life and not Lisa Marie Todd. So was there a reason why you wanted to create your channel as a brand as opposed to your name?
There was honestly no thought to it. It was already out there. I'm going to say, if you go under your name, you always have the option of pivoting, and it's not, if an Appetizing Life went away or whatever goes away, you're not tied to that. I am so right now invested in making an Appetizing Life brand this umbrella brand that I'm okay that it's not just me. So it's a choice. And it's a thing that if I walked away from it and somebody took it over, I still have myself out there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's still at Lisa Marie Todd on my Instagram. And I throw the Appetizing Life things in there, but it's a personal decision,
It is. What somebody said to me, if you are building a brand and you're building a business to sell eventually and pass it on to somebody else, it's much more difficult to do that if it's your name. because you are that brand, and it's hard to sell unless you're Louis Vuitton or whatever it might be. But if you know what I mean, it's a bit.
You lose your name too.
You lose your name,
someone buys
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So that's the other thing.
So that's the other thing. If it's harder than if you built up this big brand like Alex Amosi, for example. If he was to sell that, he would have to sell it with his name, or we can't all be Prince, the artist formerly known as. So you can't mix that up if you wanted to. So just think about that from a long-term perspective. But as Lisa said, you can have whatever name you want as an umbrella name and have these different sort of silos underneath that serve other customers or other particular niches. So it is a personal choice. I'm not sure if that answers your question, Mark, but I think whether it's if the person would like to sort of be more affiliated with the type of work that she does, then maybe it should be her name and she is the artist that does XYZ, and then she's known for that in the industry. It all depends on whether you want to. And I think other people as well, sorry, just on that, if you've got a very, very common name, it's hard to distinguish, I think, as well, because if you look in Google or you type up in Perplexity, for example, and say, who is X, and you've got a recognizable name that's common with everybody else, that's harder to distinguish yourself as well. That's why a lot of people, I guess, choose pseudonyms and have their professional names.
And I think also sometimes you just have to choose and go with it. If someone's not saying to you, don't do this because that name's just not going to work, or this brand looks like it might get you into trouble, then you just have to decide and then go sort of 100% into one, and then pivot if you really have to.
I was going to say nothing's set in stone, so back to the flexibility thing. Yeah.
Just a few comments before we close up. So Marcus says the new phone is orange. Yes. I shared a video today with some people around how the new iPhone can be scratched up very easily just by some of the techniques they've not done. So it's very fascinating. I'll send it to you, but it's very, very, very hard to watch. Somebody's getting a knife to a new iPhone. That's all I'm going to say. It's too difficult. Saeed says, who remembers channel names anyway? That depends on the channel name, I guess, but that's true. Marcus says, I say go with your name unless there's a reason not to. Yes. Tax evasion, stuff like that. Let's be clear. Saeed says he's got both. Saeed, the facilitator. And I like that because that's a play on words. Saeed also says you can spend 3 weeks on the name and the font and the logo and probably make no difference at the beginning. Yep, because nobody knows who you are. So yeah, just run with something. As you said, these YouTube channel names and things can change. A lot of people start off with a name of a channel and then just switch it to their own name and their brand name at the end, right? So yeah. I'm not sure if we're being very helpful, Mark.
Next week, join the Lisa, Mark and Neil show. And
exactly. LMN. That's what we're going to call ourselves now on the Creative Amplifiers. And speaking of where you can find us and our names, let's go to Substack. Substack is where we post all our free content for you to digest. We've been very good over the summer at creating a lot of content for you. We were doing content 3 times a week, but we thought, well, that's a little bit crazy. Let's wind it back to once a week. But it's all valuable content. We have different spins on different sort of topics. We align some of the topics as well with various brands and how they work, from music teachers, yoga teachers, fitness instructors, cookery shows, all kinds of stuff. We look at tech, we look at sort of workflows and all kinds of cool stuff in there. So there's a lot of good content, and where you will find what we're doing next, the types of things that we're going to be bringing to you in terms of workshops, freebies and stuff like that. You can only get that stuff exclusively via the Substack channel. So scan that QR code. Don't click it because you can't click a QR code. Scan the QR code. Make sure you get subscribe to our channel. And when you do subscribe, you will get 2 bits of free content. One is the questionnaire that we've been going through tonight in much more detail. There's 20 questions that you can go through if you're just starting off your YouTube channel, or even if you're in the middle of creating content. There's some good questions in there that might get the juices flowing and start to think a little bit more about how to sort of position yourself, what audience you might want to go after, and maybe some ideas around content. And then we also have our PDF, which is all about sort of a high-level workflow on starting your live or content creation journey. It's not all about live. We do podcasts, video on demand stuff and live. It's just because we're live today. That's why we talk about it. So, any closing thoughts from the two of you wonderful people before we say goodnight to the audience?
I'd say this has been great to be back live. I've really missed not being live with you both. So great to do that. Great to Marcus and Saeed, thank you for joining us, and all those people lurking in the background. It's fantastic, and looking forward to being here every week for the next few weeks, and certainly into the end of the year.
Absolutely. Yes. Lisa?
Happy to be back and get out there and create something special.
Absolutely. So as Marcus alluded to, we will be back weekly now, every Monday at 8 p.m. UK, whatever time that is Pacific. Is that 11? Is it something like that? Noon. So close. So we'll see you next week, same time, same place, with another wonderful topic. Until then, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye.